This type of seminar, we're going to talk about whatever y'all want to talk about. We can talk about setup, prep, training, how this guy's going to beat everybody in like a year. What exactly are y'all expecting from this thing? What do y'all want to talk about most? I need something, guys.
Technique.
Technique. Go, Corey.
So this one's a lot different than the last one because the last one I was at had hardly any like actual arm wrestlers. Like there were a bunch of new people. So obviously
Herman could be teaching the technique right now.
Brito, all right.
Yeah, so you do Brito there? I'm just kidding, Brito. Just kidding. Yeah. All right. What do you want to talk about? Come here. All right. So how does everyone approach arm wrestling? Do y'all approach this as a hobby? Or do y'all approach this as a sport or something you want to do forever, you want to be the best in the world at? How do you approach it?
Sport.
Everybody is in this thing to be the man, right? All right. So, y'all want to talk about nutrition? Y'all want to talk about training first? I said technique, but what are we going to talk about technique? I need some help here.
Talk about head.
All right,
I gotta get back.
Talk about from the beginning. You walk up to the table. What is your setup like? And then
I'm going to tell you everything that I do. What's most important to me? Most important thing to me is cup. And people don't think I cup, but I cup immediately every time I start a match. The first thing I'm doing is fingertips and elbows, and then I'm going to pull my thumb through my fingers to pronate. Now I have a high knuckle always. This knuckle's high. I don't try to cover your own knuckle. When you set up, how do you set up your hands? How do you keep from covering your opponent's knuckle? Come here real quick. Show me how you're going to set up and get a high hand without covering my knuckle. That's very good. So many people, and I do very similar things. I'm going to take my hand here, go and get it, and I'm just going to kick my hand down. So see how you just went over my, I wasn't trying to hide my knuckle, I'm just trying to stay off your knuckle and keep my knuckle high. And all from engaging my riser. Just kicking my hand down and engaging my riser. How does your move start? Your main move. This is the key to everything. He's protecting the height of his hand. He has a high riser. His wrist is strong. Now, do you apply any fingertip? Not really. You don't apply much fingertip?
Lever, when you talk, point your face out this way. So
all right.
Can hear your voice.
Well, I mean, he can't see anything because you're good though. All right.
I don't care what you see on
Gotcha. All right. So. Now tell me why you're not using fingertips.
I don't want to squeeze and peel my own fingers off.
So you squeeze versus clamping? All right, so how do you apply your cup? So it is still fingertips, it's just fingertips with explosion.
Gotcha.
All right. So everything that I do, he's doing probably better right now. Higher knuckle, protected wrist, and on go, he's gonna clasp my wrist and shoot straight back. The key, in my opinion, arm wrestling is a tug of war. Now there are tons of different ways to arm wrestle, but I want to control hand peg to hand peg center. As soon as they say go, I want to get you to my side of the table. At some point, it doesn't even have to be much. I just need to make sure that the match is somewhere near my side. And you do that through this strong control. It doesn't matter how strong this is if this one won't support it. Does that make sense? I mean, I know everybody knows this. It's what's so hard talking to experienced arm wrestlers. So that's why this is really weird.
What would you? So I take a much different approach. A lot of people will start with their hand either dumped like this for a top roll or up like this for height. I'm a person that likes to be completely like a post. I want to be just as solid and straight as I can be. And I do fight with fingertip, a lot of tip pressure. And I don't necessarily worry about height. I worry about where I want to be palm to palm right here as good as possible. And tucked inside of my chest. Okay. Tucked as far inside of my chest as I can. That way I start out with like a wedge from go. Instead of starting, I see people start out like this, and it drives me crazy because I mean, if somebody beats you on the go, how do you recover from that without having a little bit of angle to resist? I like to try to block with my shoulder the best I can. And I'm not necessarily an explosive arm wrestler at all. My main focus is making the match stop and then trying to turn my shoulder and turn them as palm up as I possibly can and then work towards this edge of the pad. So, I mean, it's just what works for me. Everybody's going to be so much different, but it's been really efficient for how I'm built. I don't have a big bench press right now, but usually I give a lot of credit to my big bench because I can take and just shove pec deck sideways and try to kick somebody's arm out past their shoulder. And then once I do that and get turned, I mean, you have to be a Dave Chafee type of strength or a Michael to come back from that spot. So it's really, obviously if I'm a lot stronger than somebody, the objective is just to take them to the pad on go. But if I know I'm pulling a Wayne or a Herman, my move is not sideways, it is towards you and then working towards a win.
So stop the match.
Correct.
And then adjust for the pin.
I never want to lose my hand. That's the most important thing to me because I know that I'll never get back to where I need to be from here. So because
Once your wrist is blocked, you're never going to gain your wrist back. Or not your wrist is cracked.
I think it's much harder to accomplish what I'm trying to do as a power move without a hand. So because I pull Michael all the time, I have to resist a lot of up rotation pressure. So I just fight there a lot anyway. So whether I'm trying to or not, I've always got a lot of up rotation lock. Because if I don't, he'll just spin me over.
So in the setup, how do you guys handle? How are you handling loading versus hitting? And
We don't really
Like, if someone else is loading, what I do?
or do you load?
Okay, so my setup is just like this. Like, this is it. There's nothing tight, and I want to hit as fast as I can. So let's say Devin, for instance, is coming up. If we're doing a WAL start, you can't do all this, right? So it's just when we close your thumb, close your hand. The second they close my hand, I'm going to be firing as hard as I can this way, right? To the rear of the pad. So I do like a load if I'm in the strap. I don't like to load without the strap. Because if I load with the strap real tight and I'm setting everything straight, then I feel like you can almost intimidate your opponent because your load's so like intimidating. You can intimidate them because the shit's intimidating. How do you do it? What do you do? You just loose? Yeah, I like loose. Arm wrestling has evolved so much. I mean, I'm in my 31st year doing this. AAA, they used to just, like, I was just sitting with Rodney's talking about loading your lap. They used to load like crazy. It's not my responsibility to match your load. I just have to, the rules say we have to start to sit at the table. So if you want to apply all this crazy pressure, like Devin or whoever I want to pull, I'm just going to not fight them. We're probably going to do a WAL setup over in Dubai just so we don't have to do all this dumb shit.
So if someone's loading my hand,
yes,
and I have a problem with it,
I'm just like,
I just need to let it go.
and I'm like, dude, you got to be in the center table. I don't know what y'all do. And I mean, I will play not necessarily dumb. I'll just be like, listen, I'm not starting to the match in the center table. You can't foul me. You got to foul him. He's the one that's unwilling to get the grip. The grip says center of the table. So when you calm the fuck down and get in the center table, we can say go. You know, because so many. It's instinctive as a man to want to resist. Someone's fucking with you. That's Devin's entire thing. I mean, I know we watched him versus Wagner Bortolotto. Dude, he screwed Wagner so bad. I mean, he got up there and he's jockeying the day before getting in the pool. Devin tried to touch my hand in 2018 at 406 for 3 days. He's like, come on, man, let me feel it. I'm like, oh, you'll feel it in a few days. I was so in his head because he didn't get what he wanted. He didn't get to mess with me because I wasn't going to grab him. So the same thing happens when you get up here to set up a match. You know, you're a lot of testosterone going, you're hyped up. Don't do that shit. Save all that for go.
And so when you're in the straps, do you still prefer to load, or you still want to go loose in the straps?
Okay, so I will, if you're attacking, I will loose. I will have a loose setup if you're attacking.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna do more of a defensive style match, which means I'm loose, you're low, wham! And I'm just gonna try to catch boom. Now, if I feel that you're more gonna try to arm wrestle me versus try to flash me, I will not have a crazy hard load, but I'll clamp my hand much harder.
Gotcha.
Like, it won't be a squeeze, it'll just be my hands really, like I won't be fighting for height. I'll be spreading here so that when the match goes, that climb that you're trying to do, you won't be able to do because my hand won't open. But if I'm here, if I'm floating, and you just boom, get into my hand, then I'm already here. I'm having to fight from this position. But if I can get my hand far enough around the back of your hand and a tight strap, I don't have to do anything except try to crack my move and just don't let my hand go and wait for you to make a mistake. But I'm always gonna be somewhat tight here, but everything else is gonna be loose. Like, you're never gonna see me just, like, I'm not setting up like that. I mean, some people do it, it works for some people, but the problem that I see with a lot of practices and a lot of training sessions is people will try to do shit that they will never get in a tournament. Like, why would you do this crazy hard load if you drag the dude 2 inches your side of the table and you're never gonna get that? Or come up to the table like this and like, okay, you're a fucking phenomenal practice puller, but you will never win a match because you're never getting that shit because you're only good there. So much of my arm wrestling wasn't because I wanted to be, I know I'm not the strongest guy in all the moves, but I know those guys that are really strong only train to be strong from here to here. Most of the world-class elite, Dave Chafee, Levon, Pushkar, Plinkoff, those guys train to be strong from here to here. That's it. So if you take them to here, they don't have access to their power anymore. Everything they've done is train. This is why there's a flaw in Devin Laird's training and preparation. And you guys can have all on camera, everything. Y'all tell me what you think about this. Devin is doing all this multi-spinner shit, but he's doing it from here. Like, he's grabbing a hook and just. So if he was doing it from here, then it would translate. Because that's where we have to start. He's doing it from here. All that tells me is once he gets there, he's going to be really strong. I'm just not going to let him get there. I mean, if all your training is from a position that you won't give access to in a match, it's irrelevant training. So a lot of people spend a lot of time doing what everybody else is doing, when all you have to do is find out how do you arm wrestle and what best translates to making you a better arm wrestler of how you arm wrestle. So what I do, now I don't have a pulley system, but I love the arm attachment. I have an Amazon link. I don't know what it is. Monster Factory, check it out on Amazon. You can order these. So have you grabbed one of these yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so the thing about an arm attachment, most cable pulley systems are designed for inside arm wrestling, right? Like, imagine this being steel and this is a handle and it's just gonna spin like that, right? So that's how we've always trained. Well, if you're a top roller, training this way is not really gonna help you a whole lot. I mean, it's gonna build you side pressure, but it's not gonna directly mimic your arm wrestling. So if you stuck your hand in here, and it's a regular system, it's just a hook system, right? You're still just gonna hook and spin it. But the second you do this, because I have this cheap Amazon, Walmart, nylon plastic, take your hand back out, you will spin it like this. And now your pressure is just like your top roller. Does that feel how you arm wrestle? That's pretty interesting. That's the shit. I'm just telling you. If you never, as a top roller, get to train this way, because every handle is a spinner or a cupping handle, and that's great to develop your cup. But I choose to approach arm wrestling like a job, right? I just choose to go to work every day. Meaning, a mechanic can turn this shit out of some wrenches. A carpenter beat the shit out of a hammer. I want to top roll every day of my life. So if you're a mechanic, people are like, well, should I train every day? Absolutely. Of course you should train every day, exactly what you're gonna do. You don't have to train chest every day, back every day, but you train this shit every day. A mechanic did not go to work today because he went to work yesterday. Oh, I'm taking off today because I went to work yesterday. No, you're working. This is a job. Treat this shit like a job, you know? So if right there, this is how all my training. So when I say I'm gonna cup here. Now, is there a lot of resistance? No, but my mind tells me to cup. My finger, this is a thumb. If y'all see that, that's a thumb, right?
Yep.
So when I reach into this dude's thumb, that means this is the back of his hand. So if the first thing I do is this, I'm I am prepared that every single time when I grip a hand, I'm gonna do this because it's natural, it's instinctive. So I cup and then I pull through the thumb with pronation. Wham, wham. So what do you think's gonna happen when I get on a table? That's what I'm gonna do because that's the shit I did every day of my life.
Second nature.
I mean, that's the only way I know how to teach arm wrestling. It has to be, you got to be passionate about it, but consistency, daily, resistance makes you good at arm wrestling.
I've got a question. How do you handle a dump wristed top roller? Like, what's your approach?
Okay, so all outside arm wrestling against me, I pull exactly the same way.
Okay.
And it's cup and pronate, right? Because if you're dumping your wrist, okay, so a lot of people think Vitaly Letin is this huge threat to me. And he is a dangerous individual. But he's gonna have to front his hand like Matt Mass does, right? So this, in my opinion, protects you from being hooked. It does shit for you against a top roll, especially a posting top roll. If we're outside arm wrestling and you're dumping your hand to me, yes, you might be able to get this move, but all I need to do is get that. I just got to flatten that. So my approach may not be the approach that you, but it's exactly the same against all outside arm wrestling. It's do what I do and do it better than what they're doing. Inside arm wrestling is more just as much pronation as possible to keep you from turning my palm up.
Correct.
If someone's trying to hook me, I just don't let my wrist go that way. I just make sure that I'm protecting that the whole time.
And you give. You'll do like what you'll give a little bit, and as soon as he it's like because you're chasing because
he pulls me so much.
It's going to rotate you out because you don't realize how you're being extended at the same time.
Gotcha.
Because you'll run to the front of the pad because you think you're getting him hooked, and then before you know it, you run out of pad, and he's still moving backwards, and then your hands flat.
So tell me how you would do a dumping top roll. Like how do you pull it? Because you were asking me that.
I typically have to go high as possible. Like I have no true hooking skills.
Yeah.
So I can't go that route.
Oh, so you're saying you would do something different? Like you might not top roll the top roller.
No, I'm saying that's all I have.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
I cannot. I don't have this.
Yeah.
Corey has this.
Yeah.
I know.
I don't have it anymore because this is it. Like I can't supinate any further than this. So my ability to boom, it's not there because I don't have the ability to do that anymore. So that strength I don't possess it.
Gotcha.
So when people, let's say you're an inside arm wrestler. How many guys here are hookers? Like straight up, dirty little hookers, right? All right. So if you're a hooker who arm wrestles a top roller, how do you attack that top roller? How do you pull it? Same thing? Okay. If you're arm wrestling a hook, this is how I arm wrestle. I top roll. If I'm a hooker and I'm pulling a top roller, I top roll them to get to the strap. I don't hook you to get to the strap. I'm gonna give you the best example that this has ever existed in the history of arm wrestling. Who was the most dominant 100 kg arm wrestler in the last decade?
For still?
Arsen Lillian.
Okay.
I like him.
Bad dude. Bad dude. And so it actually goes back 13, 14 years. What? Okay, cool. Yeah. This is good shit. So Arsen Lillian ran through everybody like children. Now, who is the guy that figured out the puzzle? Crosby. The ultimate inside arm wrestler who couldn't arm wrestle. He gets flashed every time he arm wrestling. How did he beat him? No, he fucking top rolled him to get to the strap. He no longer chased this dude because there was nothing you could chase. You're getting pinned by the time you get any act. You can't even get into the match and you're flashed. So he's like, screw that shit. Post like crazy. So now we're in a strap. Now, do you think once he's in the strap, he immediately commits to the hook?
Back pressure.
No, he stops all this offensive move with counter back pressure. And then he sinks his hook. So you top rollers. Dude, don't be the guy who is chasing the other dude. If you're this guy who is diesel here, but you end up here, this is not where you want to arm wrestle. You end up like this. You don't want this, trust me. This is horrible. So don't be the guy that has to have this. Be the guy that can get it from here, then is tied to it. I mean, think about it. What's that hook? If I'm here and I do this and I get compromised, arm wrestling at its core is a tug of war. Everybody thought it was side pressure. We have rules and we have pads and we can move. I have to pull you to me. There is no other way around this. It is a tug of war. So why would my first move be give you everything? I'm just, if we're out of rope, and I'm like, hey, yo, I mean, that's just dumb. I mean, I'm never gonna do that. Now, Eastern Europeans have it figured out. They have, there's an American hook, in my opinion. There's an Eastern European hook. An American hook, we're like, you're so strong, come here, I'm gonna get you. And Eastern Europeans like, my wrist and hand are ridiculous, I'm gonna drag you into a hook. Because they don't give up the center. So if you don't have that ridiculous wrist since birth, and you've been training, because their whole team has been training since they were 1, and you can't do this, then do this, slip, get to the strap, crazy as much back as you can, and then sink it. Once you get this control, then you sink your hook. Does that make sense? It's so much different than the approach that most people take. Because they just think, I'm gonna do more wrist curls. What, that wrist curl doesn't matter if I gave you everything. You gotta be like twice as strong as this dude to take that shit back.
Yeah.
Why not just be equally as strong and stop the match with back pressure? And then engage your move. That's just my take. All I know is Herman's like, yeah, that's good. So if Herman says it's right, this shit is gold. Go ahead.
I think the thing that has benefited me the most, being new in my 4 years, is having the ability to find somebody like Michael, Herman, Rita. I mean, people know. So if you can find somebody to chase all the time, somebody that's gonna just beat you like a dog every time you pull them, and have the ability to not have a big ego and can wear that like every loss is a step, closer, a step closer. In this sport, I thought he saw it. But it's a very humbling sport. You're never going to be the best from day one. Very few people are going to be the best in a decade. But if you can take and learn from every loss and go after everybody that you know is better than you all the time, like not just show up to beat the guys that you know you can beat, like skip the tournaments that you know are going to be stacked, or skip the practices where you know there's going to be 10 people that can beat you at. Get the hell out of here. It ain't stacked. What are you talking about?
He said it ain't stacked.
I think that's the thing that has helped me the most. I've probably lost 10,000 matches to this guy. I've won one late in a practice, one. Been this guy one time.
He gets so mad at every other practice I go to and everyone else beats him. He goes, how do you let everybody else beat you? Well, it's because it's normally just me and him.
Yeah.
If it's a big practice, I've arm wrestled everyone, and everyone beats me. If it's just me and Corey, I will win most of the day, But this kid has helped me. When he's saying go find someone to chase, go find someone who is committed. Find someone who will show up. And you guys just hold each other accountable and be consistent with this shit. That's the key. I mean, I was just talking to Herman about how impressed I am with Ryan Bowen. He immediately was like, that bomb. But it's because he's consistent. The kid loves arm wrestling, as I'm sure you guys do as well. But it's that daily consistency that makes you a champion. It's not, I have a really hard time with this. I like Jerry Caderet a lot. But I cannot let Jerry Caderet beat me if he's a part-time arm wrestler. If he's like, well, I'm going to train for 6 weeks. I'll be ready. Fuck, I train 52 weeks a year. If you beat me with 6 weeks of training, I need to switch. I can't do this shit anymore because I do this all the time. And that's the approach I feel people should take. Because, we were talking about genetics a while ago. Can anyone be great? No, there's certain parameters that you might need to possess to be a world class at anything. But I think the main one is belief and mental toughness. You cannot be a bitch. You got to work. Every single day you will be tested mentally, whether it's in your workout, whether it's with your nutrition. I choose to treat myself like a professional athlete. Like, I'm not a guy who's genetically gifted as far as aesthetics. If I eat what I want, I'm a 300-pound hay-hauling country boy. That's me. If I want to perform at an elite level, I have to treat myself like an elite athlete. You buy a $100,000 car, I don't know how many of us can do it, but if you did buy a $100,000 car, would you put regular leaded gas in it? No, you're putting premium fuel. Why would you treat your body any less? Primal beef jerky / Monster. Beat on primal.com, that's what it was. But yeah, so seriously, that's my approach. I mean, it's everything that we do, it starts with a strong mind. And then it's just goals. And you don't set the dumbass goal out here. You set this goal. And then you reach it and you set that goal. And that consistency is what's going to make you great. Will you be the best in the world? No, because that should not be the goal. The goal should be the best you can be. I just think the best me beats the best everybody else. You know what I'm saying? That's my belief. And if you have that belief, that's it. Okay, so this is a cheap ass gripper. I don't do grippers in traditional sense, meaning I can't squeeze shit. I can barely close a 2.5 probably, and I may not. I know I can close a 2, but this little cheap Walmart gripper, I don't even know where I got it. Somewhere gripper. This is nothing, but if you turn it this way, it gets work. So I just do this just like I do everything else. You just crank like this. You'll be able to do it easy, but you'll see the difference, obviously. Just crank that wrist.
No, that's
You're joking, aren't you now? But I mean,
seriously,
it's a big difference, right?
Yeah,
so
it's way
He
easier.
doesn't even do that anyway.
they're all competing. Here, let's arm wrestle. I got money on Wayne. So, I mean, this is it right here.
You gonna try to frustrate?
I don't want to do anyone who's ever closed a heavy gripper because your ego's like, hey, I think I can try it. Every single person who's ever been successful with a gripper did like this, and their wrist went back. I don't know any arm wrestler that chooses to be in this position. Nobody say my name. Because I may get there every once in a while, but I don't want that. I want this forward. So I'm never gonna try to squeeze stuff. I'm gonna try to clamp stuff, or I'm gonna try to, that pinky, right? So boom, turn it, do sets of 50. And it doesn't have to be this one. It can be any little weak ass gripper. But I'm telling you, this stuff works. It'll build your tendons, your ligaments. I do this stuff all the time. So the art arm is my favorite handle, specifically because of how it felt. Did it feel good to you though?
That was pretty interesting.
I mean, it really is. Like, and you know, I have so many people online who'll see me doing. They're like, "Well, you're not activating your pronator." I'm like, "Well, arm wrestling. Let's find out." But you know, seriously, does that mimic how you arm wrestle? And it doesn't. You don't have to have this pronation, because honestly, this doesn't mimic my arm wrestling that much. In my opinion, it's great for pronation, but this mimics exactly how I'm going to arm wrestle, right? So why would I not do that? There's so many things that are performed off the table, because traditionally, that's how we did wrist curls. This is how we did wrist curls. This is how we did wrist curls. I'm never going to be in that position arm wrestling. I would rather do a wrist curl like this, because this is how I'm going to arm wrestle. You know, I try to do everything I can from something that would easily translate to the table. And I'm lazy, so I want to do the least amount of work as possible to get the best result. Or he's agreeing with that. So, this is a monster curl bar. I honestly don't use this one as much as I use my original one. That's just a piece of pipe that's welded. This one has spinning handles on it. But the key is, how important is hammer curling in arm wrestling? Do you think?
I think it's pretty important.
I think hammer curl is extremely important. So, is it important to do a really heavy hammer curl if you haven't rested on a bar or a lip that really is just working this, or would it make sense to work your hand at the same time? Remember, I'm lazy, so I'm gonna try to get the most stuff done at once. So now I have a hammer curl bar that I can only curl what I can hold on to. You know, there's nothing to keep this thing from coming out of my hand. So I grab a bar like this, load this sucker up with weight, crank my wrist, and my riser's engaged. I'm cupping, and I'm just getting it. Now I'm not doing these bodybuilding full range, because I'm not gonna arm wrestle from there. I'm doing pumping reps, right? But that motion right there is now I'm working my hand, my wrist, my bicep, my pronator. Buy one of these, Armwrestlingshop.com, or build one. But this stuff works. You're gonna have shit that's gonna happen, and you're gonna either be mentally weak or you're gonna be mentally tough. You're gonna either get through it or you're gonna let it break you. I just choose not to let anything break me. And if you will take that approach in this sport and do the consistent work, you can be the best you.
I mean, look at Herman. Herman is consistently trained through losing his house.
Yeah, that's pretty.
That's the thing.
That's
man.
pretty mentally tough.
A weaker person would have said, "I do not have time for this." They would have stepped back. They would have backslid. They wouldn't be somebody that could even be talked about to be one of the best. And that's the kind of stuff that is the reason, you know.
Obviously, you've had a lot of injuries, Michael. Mine is starting to stack up. My arm's starting to lock and do all kinds of weird stuff. I think I've heard you say that if you could go back in time and you didn't have those injuries, or you handled them better and had range of motion, you'd be an even better arm wrestler. So I guess the question is what should the new guys be doing to maybe prevent some of these injuries or address them, so that, you know, they don't end up with too short of a range of motion, or, you know.
I'm going to tell you how I would have prevented. It would have been a very hard thing for me to do, but I would have let some matches go. I would have gave up, and that's what happened to me. Is I wouldn't quit. I was like, screw it. I'm in this horrible position, but you're not going to pin me, so I'm going to pin you. And because of that, and I didn't have health insurance for about 20 years. So me and Craig Touye were really good friends. We started off together, and Craig would like, well, I got this happening, well, I got that happening. Yeah, I bet I got that too, but I don't have any insurance, so I'm not going to find out. I'm just going to keep working out. So that's all I did. I got injured, and I didn't go check on it. I just trained through it, and because of that, I have an arm that doesn't move very well. But the best way to prevent those injuries, and I'm telling you, another good reason is I've been doing this a very long time, right? There was not as much information out there when I started. You figured a lot of this shit out on your own. Or you went to a tournament because of a flyer you got in the mail, or you drove to I mean, we didn't know what we know now. With the internet, there's so much information. You can train smarter. I just trained kind of stupid a lot. Like, I'm hurting. I'm going to keep training, you know? I mean, I probably should have been a little bit more wiser. There's ultrasounds, there's treatments, there's therapy. I'm a believer of ice therapy. I'm a believer of cryotherapy. I'm a believer of anything that is rejuvenative medicine. I'm a huge believer in that. I think athletes can be better now than they've ever been in history. I think our best athletes can exist in this time because of the advances in science. And we're just, you know, don't be stupid. So my advice to younger me would be, don't do that dumb shit. For one, I would have trained my hand and wrist. I would have, see, all the stuff I'm talking about, don't shoot forward. I shot forward for 20 years. Because if I could ever secure my arm, John Brzezinski and Ron Bath in 2006 said Michael Todd has got as strong an arm as anybody in the sport. If his hand and wrist ever catches his arm, we're screwed. Well, my hand and wrist got good, and I think I lost my arm strength. So I just replaced one for the other. But if I would have been training my hand and wrist the whole time, yes, do I think I would have had greater potential? Absolutely. And I think that's the key. Learn you don't have to be the Corey or Herman. You got to be what you're good at. I mean, now I believe that Travis, and this is going to sound mean, but it's not. I've never thought Travis was a great arm wrestler. I thought he was great at arm wrestling in one lane. But once the match stopped, I didn't think he really possessed the skills to be that good of an arm wrestler, because he focused on doing one thing really good. And that one thing he was one of the best in the world at. Well, one of the most impressive matches of Travis Bajan in my life was him versus Richard Lufke's. Because he didn't get the hit. He was fighting from over here. I saw arm wrestling skill. I saw Travis Bajan display an arm wrestling knowledge and ability to win a match where he didn't get everything on the go. That impressed me. And then when he beat Jerry Caderet in 2016, he did the perfect lane to beat Jerry. I'm saying all that to say, should you train one move to be your best at your one move? Absolutely. I think you should always train your ace, but go back to that weakness, the thing that you don't like. I was pulling with Chance a while ago, and Chance had everything. I was in the worst possible position, and I was comfortable pulling there because I know I'm going to end up there sometime. So practice pulling is not about winning. So many people have their egos when they come to the table. What, I'm going all over the place?
You went down a rabbit hole.
I'm a fuck, woo!
Go ahead.
But yeah, the point was how you should train. I think you should train your ace, but you also shouldn't, you don't have to try to be, if he's good at hook or he's good at top, you don't have the genetics he has. People are like, well, can a long arm guy be a good hooker? Can a short arm guy be a good top row? Yes. You can be good at anything. We can do all the same techniques. You just got to find out what's best for you. And don't try to chase someone else to be the best you. Just find out what you're good at, train it, be consistent. I have been all over the place, I know.
Recovery is important.
Were we talking about recovery?
To protect your arm, okay?
Oh, so I do believe in high volume training too. I don't know how many people agree with that, but my approach the last 10 years has been a rehab style training. I just increase the amount of work each week when I'm prepping. So used to, I would lift really heavy all the time. And the next week I try to lift really heavier, and that helps, but I hurt all the damn time. I mean, I'll be 48 in June, and this is my 31st year. I don't hurt as bad anymore because of the way I train. Because every time I work out, it's just getting blood to that muscle, blood to that area. Blood heals damaged tissue, so try to do as much volume as you can. Now, I'm not saying don't do heavy lifting. Do your heavy stuff first, and then finish with volume. Because that volume, that blood heals your body. I don't know how I got on with that, but where are you at? Questions? Yeah, you guys have to have some questions. Somebody.
Talk about which direction you go when you hit on the pad. You go straight back, don't you?
Okay, so there's two different styles of my arm wrestling. My previous arm wrestling was probably more straight back. It's more of a defensive style. I just had to stop the match. So much of my arm wrestling was stopping the match. Now I've got people thinking, if y'all saw some of the recent training when I was pulling with Derek Smith and stuff, practicing ready goes, we were like, well, if you can stop him, when's the last time you heard somebody say, well, if you could stop Michael Todd? No one ever worries about stopping me. They're worried about me stopping them. So now I'm taking more offensive approach. And that offensive approach has been because of this. I changed my style of training from rope pulling for pronation to this for pronation. Because when I do this pronation, I'm actually getting pinning pressure with it. The other pronation was just here, right, with the rope. That's great for getting this if I just want to go straight back, right? But if I want to go to the pin pad, I've started pinning with pronation. So I'm more of an offensive style arm wrestler now. So my move, although my move is always going to be back, it's more back. I have two. I have a back outside and a back real hard side. And that back side is different, isn't it? You'll feel the difference when you're pulling me. Like if I'm attacking his hand and he counters it, we might get into this. But if I attack back and sideways, turning his palm up, the stop that he was expecting doesn't happen anymore because I'm not going here anymore, I'm going there. So it's just changing angles. I'm way more offensive now.
From here to here with your elbow and then sideways?
I'm here to here. I used to be here to here for defense. For offense, I'm here to here. Where do you pull?
Yeah, same way.
I think everyone starts here and tries to end here, you know? Because we all wanted to have it all. I got so used to just going here to here to pronate out. But like I said, it put me in spots where I'm hanging on my bicep. I got Jerry Caderet laying on my arm. You know? I'm like, hell, why don't I just hit instead of hitting back? Because people are like, why don't you hit? I'm like, I did. I hit back. I just didn't hit sideways. The hit back stopped me from getting flashed, you know? So now it's more hitting with side pressure. Because I realized, especially with the upcoming match with Devin, if it would have been Levon, I had to be strong enough to stop the match. If I was strong enough to stop the match, I feel like I was going to win. Since the opponent has shifted to Devin just has to be strong enough to stop the match. Because he's as good arm wrestler as me, if not better, right? It's who makes the fewest mistakes wins. Unless I smack the shit out of him, you know? So my objective is 3-0, uneventful, the most boring 395 you've ever spent in your life, because I'm gonna try to smack this dude as fast as possible, because I know if I don't, and I let him in the match at all, it comes down to wills. And that dude's a warrior, you know? So sometimes you have to take a different approach. Do you wanna find out who's got the more heart? Or do you want to just smack the shit out of somebody and get it over with, you know? I'm telling you, I'm in this thing to try to win as fast as possible. But I always am. People are like, why don't you flash people like Travis? I'm like, I wish I could. I just tend to get in long matches, you know. But even at 48 years old almost, in 31 years, I'm still trying to evolve my game. And that's what arm wrestling is. That's what everything is. Always try to be better than you were yesterday. But you're the only person asking questions, and you. What else we got?
I think I'm a little starstruck.
Yeah, Corey does that to people.
I'm Jeremy Barton.
Jeremy, nice to meet you, sir. Yes, sir.
We're big fans of yours.
Oh, awesome.
I come from a bull riding background, so strength in the wrist, but it's a little different than what.
So is it back wrist strong?
Mainly down here like this. When you get up on your body, so your bicep, forearm here, but you're constantly pulling to stay up on top of the bull.
No, I got
so different. I don't ride anymore. I've had neck injuries and surgeries and stuff, so I'm getting into arm wrestling. But I built a table, built some equipment, so I'm practicing. But I really want to get into it, so I just need to like learn different ins and outs of it. You know?
There's so much information online right now. Like we have an Arm Wrestling 101 series on our YouTube. Go watch that. Find out, get a pulley system. Always get a pulley system.
Find a local group.
I'm from the Waco area, and I got Devin's app, the arm bit. There's a couple people around there. I'm trying to get some guys so I can start pulling with. I've only had one match. It was the pizza delivery guy. Delivered a pizza, but he's a powerlifting champion or whatever. And so I beat him, but I haven't had any chance to train or anything. So
you're gonna have plenty of people to pull with here today too. But yeah, arm wrestling is about repetition. You got to get comfortable. It's just like anything else, you know. People, and it's funny when people are like, well, have you ever been beat? Dude, I've lost 100,000 matches. I've just arm wrestled over 1 million. You know, I just don't lose much anymore. But it's 100,000 losses that got me there. I mean, you gotta get out there and learn. You know, people talk losing's learning. However you want to look at it, you will learn the more you're on the table.
Do you recommend the blood flow restriction training? Is that something you do on a weekly basis, or?
I only BFR when I'm prepping for a match, and I'll tell you why. I feel like if I train like a crazy person all the time, I have no way to increase the training. So I will do maintenance training throughout the year, and once I find out a match is coming, I will start increasing the workload, the weight each week, and then 6 to 8 weeks out, I started adding BFR. Now, the main reason I do a BFR, it does increase growth hormone production, VO2 max, all that stuff, but it's the pump. The pump is so severe. It got to the point where it really didn't affect us anymore. We could do the workout with BFR or without BFR, and we were still fine because we were so used to the pump. But the reason a lot of people are like, well, if my hand wouldn't have got pumped, I would have won. Well, I choose to do all my arm wrestling training while I'm pumped. So if you prepare for worst case scenario in your training, and it doesn't come down like that, dude, that's awesome. But if you don't prepare for it and you're like practice, overcome your knuckle or practice this, well, if you don't get that, you're like, well, I got cheated. Well, no, it was improper training, improper preparation. I choose to have perfect nutrition, perfect training, so I have a perfect outcome. There are very few things in life that you can control, right? Life's gonna happen, shit's gonna happen. What you choose to eat for your nutrition, you have an opportunity to be perfect. If you set a plan to say, I'm going to do this, you can be perfect. You can't be like, well, you know, I couldn't get that big lift today. You can't, well, I couldn't eat that 4 ounces of chicken. No, you eat it because you're supposed to eat it. So if you set it on there, and this is just an example. But, you know, you might get a perfect grade sometime, you might have perfect attendance, but very seldom does someone have an opportunity to be perfect. With your nutrition and how you approach your preparation, you do have that opportunity. And it's up to you to do it. I mean, if you choose perfection, be perfect. If you don't, and you don't succeed, you only have yourself to blame. People are like, well, hey, your next opponent so-and-so, your next opponent so-and-so, how are you going to train for that? Or what do you think about how they're training? I cannot waste my time worrying about what they're doing. The only thing that I can control is how hard I'm willing to work and what sacrifices I'm willing to make. That's it. The rest of life is I'm just wasting my time worrying about shit. Just a little bit. You know, I don't know what he's going to do. And if I'm sitting here, well, what if he does this? Well, what if he does that? Well, what if I just do what I do really, really well? If I do what I do really, really well, I think I'm eating. So, and that's just the approach, right? So it's just, like I said, it all comes back to mental. So much of everything we do is about being mentally prepared, mentally tough. And as far as on the table, when a match stops, being comfortable, I mean, that just comes with practice. I mean, how many places on the table, are you right-handed, left-handed? How many places on the table right-handed are you uncomfortable?
Not many.
And that's me being pinned. Anything slide short of me being pinned, I'm comfortable and I can still win. And that's what it has to be. You have to find spots where there's nowhere on this table, once that match says go, that I'm uncomfortable. And it just comes down to being there so many times over and over and over. So finding someone to train with, finding someone to pull with, that's the best advice you can get for arm wrestling.